Thanks for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by the Texas Alliance for Energy. I'm Jim Cardle. The Texas Legislature has hit one of its first major thresholds in the 60-day mark, meaning that all legislation has either been introduced or not. Now it's off to committee hearings and actual voting activity, and today we're pleased to be able to visit with House Republican Caucus Chairman Tan Parker, who is from District 63 in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, who is also chairman of the House Financial Institutions and Investments Committee, talking about the important issues of the budget, child protective services, and what's going on in the House of Representatives. We're pleased to be able to visit today with State Representative Tan Parker. State Representative and House Caucus Chairman Tan Parker, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Jim. My privilege. Thanks for the invitation.
Want to get into some policy issues, of course, and talk about the state legislative activities. But first, if I can, because you do hail from the DFW Metroplex, you're in Denton County and the Fort Worth, Dallas area. Tell us what's going on up there politically. What are you hearing on the ground? What's the state of politics in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Let me tell you something, Jim. The Republican Party is alive and well in North Texas and throughout the state of Texas. We just finished kind of our cycle of Lincoln-Reagan days, right? So from Denton County to Dallas County to Tarrant County, the whole region. And let me tell you, they were phenomenally attended, wonderful speakers. The base is motivated to continue to keep Texas bright red. So it was really fabulous. We had a wonderful political season in terms of the Lincoln-Reagan cycle every year. It was wonderful.
Now, we all in Austin think that the world revolves around the state legislature. Are you finding that folks are obsessed with the national politics, or is there a little bit of attention to what you're doing here in Austin?
Look, no question, people are focused on what's happening in Washington. We're all excited about the new administration, as conservatives, what it means for the future of this nation. But certainly at the same time, Texans obviously care about what's happening here in Austin, and we're going to have a great session. So people are very focused.
Okay, let's jump into some issues because I know your time's limited. The state budget, of course, but first of all, you are chairman of the House Republican Caucus. It's a big leadership position. Some folks know what the word caucus means, others don't. You've got 95 Republicans in the House of Representatives, 55 Democrats, but tell us about the House Republican Caucus, if you can, real briefly.
No, Jim, absolutely. Look, 95 Republican members, all focused on making certain that we serve Texas and do the right thing, and have a very good conservative session. In terms of the caucus, in terms of what we do, first and foremost, we're providing a lot of educational content to members, right? We try to assist members in passing their bills. We, of course, form the policy committee, and the policy committee, of course, provides an opinion on all the different things that come through. Could be positive, could be negative, could be neutral. But that policy committee is a key part of the caucus organization. It meets every day.
Headed by Ron Simmons, your fellow Metroplex.
Well, actually, right. Ron Simmons headed it last time around and did an extraordinary job for me.
Okay.
This time now, Ron did his service. Now we've got Craig Goldman serving in that capacity.
Gotcha.
Craig's a wonderful chairman, going to do a great job over policy. And so literally that's another way the caucus is working every day. We also provide a lot of marketing and messaging ideas to members to help them better communicate with their constituents back home. And we're providing, generally speaking, all types of resources to support the members in being successful. And of course, we involve ourselves in the primary process, supporting all of our incumbents. And then, of course, in the general, making certain that our Republicans get elected and we maintain our strong Republican position, obviously, in the Texas House of Representatives.
So in terms of there being the Speaker of the House, you've got set committees in the legislature. What I hear you saying is that the caucus does play a pretty significant role in doing research and an analysis.
Absolutely. We play a role there that's significant with regard to research and analysis, trying to keep the members together and working together to accomplish the major Republican objectives of the session. So absolutely, I'm very blessed and humbled to serve in that capacity. And it's an enormous responsibility I take very seriously, Jim. Absolutely.
Okay, speaking of the legislative session, some folks will know that we've just hit a major deadline or threshold in the session. Every session is 140 days going through the end of May this year. And the first 60 days is when bills can be introduced. No bills can be introduced after that. Tell us a little bit about what the mood of the House is, having gone through this initial period. some things have been addressed on the governor's emergency agenda, but what's the mood of the House at this point?
Yeah, look, the House is in great spirits. We're focused on the work ahead. We know that the heavy lifting is before us, but we've had a great couple of months getting oriented, getting ready, getting all of our committees put in place, so to speak. All the members, of course, have been filing bills from before session and throughout this entire period, and up until, of course, our last deadline, which was on Friday. And so members are really ready to do the heavy lifting, and we're in good spirits and excited about the good conservative accomplishments that will be hailed out of this session come June. We're very encouraged about what people will see and what they'll say about the successes that we had as a Republican House, what we did as a Republican caucus, and I think people will be very pleased with the ultimate outcome of where things stand.
I think I read the other day there's just over 7,700 bills been introduced. You're chairman of the Financial Institutions and Investment Committee. Anything in particular you're really trying to get behind this session?
Yeah, look, I've been very privileged to serve in that role of over investments in financial services. In the interim, we studied lots of major issues. No two, in my mind, that are more important to Texas as it pertains to financial services related issues than one, cybersecurity, making certain that we have an infrastructure that's able to protect our citizens, and the other is that of elder financial abuse. It's running rampant, Jim, unfortunately. We have too much of that taking place. People that are known caretakers to an older individual, but they're suffering because they're literally robbing them blind. And they're doing it left and right, and it's just really becoming, unfortunately, an epidemic where you have caretakers who are just not being responsible to the individual that they've have a commitment to. And so this whole topic of financial elder abuse has become a very big one that we've studied during the interim session. And we have a lot of legislation this session that will address that. I'm carrying a bill specifically with regard to cracking down on elder abuse of our seniors when it comes to their finances. We also have a major bill Giovanni Capriglione has that specifically is focused on cybersecurity. I'm joint authoring that with him.
Okay.
Also in my committee of interest, I think the people back home across the state, is I'll be working to modify our home equity lending rules in Texas, which is a very consumer-friendly piece of legislation that I think is timely and very appropriate. So those are some of the things I do in that committee outside of my role and having the privilege of leading the caucus.
I know cybersecurity or personal security, everybody's concerned and hearing about leaks on a weekly basis, so appreciate your work there. Folks, I want to thank you for joining us again for this edition of Texas Insider TV. We're visiting with House Republican Caucus Chairman Tan Parker out of the Metroplex in House District 63. Chairman Parker, let's get into perhaps the one issue that folks know about that the legislature is required to do every session, and that's pass a state budget. We've had a little pullback economically the last couple of years. You all are facing a little more difficult proposition in writing a balanced budget this time, but the House and the Senate are both moving forward. What's the outlook that you see for our state budget? How's it coming?
Look, we obviously have a more difficult budgetary cycle and process right now during session this time around than we did last. And that's really directly due to the fact that we've obviously seen some contraction, obviously, in our oil and gas economy, with the price of oil obviously declining dramatically from when we were last here. As we all know, there's a lot of macro factors for why we're there. But look, the bottom line is that the Texas economy continues to do very, very well. We are still growing jobs. Our economy is the envy of any other state in this country and, frankly, anywhere in the world. One of the stats that we love talking about, the fact is that we are now the 10th largest economy in the world. We have now surpassed, it's hard to believe, but the Russian economy and the Canadian economy.
Okay.
So when you look at those types of factors, despite our challenge, we recognized how blessed we are. But make no mistake about it, it is a difficult budgetary cycle, having a significant multi-billion-dollar shortfall. But look, we as Republicans in the House, I can only speak for the House, we will continue to be very fiscally disciplined. We will put in place a budget that respects our priorities as Texans, but at the same time lives within our means and does not raise taxes.
One thing that has already been addressed that I think we should talk about just briefly is the issue of child protective services. A lot of folks will know what that entails, perhaps most won't. Talk about that bill a little bit if you can briefly.
Jim, look, there's no more important issue, period, okay? It to me was the most critical issue for us to address. Protecting our babies is the highest priority of any of us in this building, period, end of
And you've
story.
worked on this issue for years.
I've worked on it for years. I've had the blessing of being a part of creating study committees in the interim, if you will, past interims, where we've looked at how we improve the adoption and foster care process. But again, there's something more important for me to do, nothing more important than my Republican colleagues, and frankly, we're doing it in a bipartisan manner. So when the fact is, the matter is that here we're 60 days in, we've already addressed the issue of CPS, a good bit of it obviously here this session with the bills that were on the floor last week. I'm delighted that we passed those moving forward, and now we'll take the other emergency items of the governor on here the next couple of weeks. But again, the fact that CPS we are addressing in a very meaningful way, not just with more money, but with structural changes that will make a difference for these precious children is what it's all about.
Does it have to do with foster care, or what types of programs particularly?
Well, I mean, what we're really doing is we're talking about, foster care and how do we fix it, right? I mean, the Burkett bill specifically dealt with kinship care, right?
Cindy
and so,
Burkett, state representative.
Absolutely. And it's just very, very important that we do everything in our power to make certain that these children have the opportunity to be with a family member, even though it may be an aunt or an uncle or a second cousin, whatever the case may be, to be with a family member, as we know that the outcomes are typically better for those kids than being within the system, so to speak, with a non-family member. And so that's why we focus on the foster care piece so much and looking at ways to improve the situation across the board.
Crucial
Crucial.
area.
Nothing more important, Jim. Period. I can't stress that enough to your viewers. I mean, at the end of the day, it is the most important issue, no doubt about it.
Okay, appreciate your input there. One other crucial agenda item on Governor Abbott's emergency list. I know you've been involved in this before as caucus chairman, and can't go through a discussion without talking about it, and that's the issue of border security. Obviously, President Trump, the national debate's been significant on that, whether it's through technological monitoring or actually building the wall. But sanctuary cities has been an issue here in Austin, and I think up in Dallas a little bit too. What's the outlook for a sanctuary cities effort this session?
Look, the bottom line, Jim, is this. Last session, we put $840 million into border security. So again, this is a critically important thing that we do to protect our citizens, right? Put aside the issues over illegal immigration for just a moment. At the end of the day, it's about law and order. It's about the protection of our citizens in North Texas and in Houston and all the various geographies of the state. And so that's why we need to crack down, and that border security is so important, particularly in a 9/11 world, post 9/11 world. We have to continue to be vigilant. Now, we're all very excited, obviously, about President Trump and his position on the border, and that he's going to step up, we believe, along with his colleagues, our colleagues, I should say as well, the Republican majority in both the House and the Senate, to be able to take this responsibility financially over from Texas. We have done our part for all these years, and the necessity has been because Washington has failed us previously. But now, in the new administration, with Republican control of the Congress, we believe very passionately that they're going to step up and help us support this border and pay the bill that needs to be done. So that's the first piece of the equation, and so we're delighted about that. And our hope is that this year will be the final year that Texas has to be able to fund these issues, these operations for border security, and we'll be able to transition this expense to the federal government here very, very rapidly. So that's our hope. But then beyond that, beyond the importance and necessity of border security, we also need to take the magnets off. And the reality is that the way to do that is to crack down on sanctuary cities. And so I'm very proud of my colleagues. We will work to pass a very good sanctuary cities bill. My good friend Charlie Guerin will actually be carrying that bill for us in the House.
Coming up here in the next week or so, I understand.
Yeah, it'll be coming up. I've taken it through the committee process, and it will ultimately get to the floor. But absolutely, we will have a sanctuary cities bill. We will pass as a Republican House here during the session. Absolutely.
I know earlier in the session you were part of a press conference sending the bill for Texas's hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know about the prospects of getting the federal reimbursement for that, but in this bill, finally, there are, talk if you would a little bit, not only civil but criminal penalties for elected office holders, correct, who do not adhere to the law of ICE detainers.
No, look, absolutely. I mean, what we want to do with regard to sanctuary cities is to make certain there's adherence, right? I mean, we are either a state and a nation where we respect the rule of law or we don't. It's one of the two. And obviously, from a Republican perspective, we believe in respecting the laws of the land and that they need to be enforced. So absolutely, we'll address that topic. It'll be a comprehensive sanctuary cities bill, and I think, at the end of the day, the people of Texas will be better served because of it. We'll be safer, and at the end of the day, we'll address this situation that's been a problem for so many years.
Well, speaking of respecting things, we're going to respect your time and leave it there for today's issue of Texas Insider TV. Chairman Tan Parker of the House Republican Caucus, also Chairman of the House Financial Institution and Investments Committee. We really appreciate you coming in.
Jim, it's my privilege. Thanks so much. Anytime I can be of service. And again, we thank you for what you do. And again, I just want everybody back home to know we're going to have a great session, a great conservative session, and do the right thing for Texas. Thank you, sir.
Well, folks, we appreciate you joining us for this edition of Texas Insider TV with Tan Parker. Remember, you're either an insider or you're not. I'm Jim Cardle. Thanks for joining us.